It's clear that what they're doing. And I think it's Can I have your attention, please? Welcome to the October meeting of the Marinwood CSD Board of Directors. Let's all stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming. Thanks. We have the first item, which has been advertised, is the public hearing, Ray, the seed fund solar electric proposal. This is item B, A, project description.
Bill, before that's done, I think it's appropriate to approve for the board to approve the agenda before we start going into some of these issues. Given the results of our meeting, last month's meeting, I think it would be a little confusing given that the board has already decided not to move forward with this, and for now, all of a sudden for it to be brought back on the agenda when the board already gave direction last time.
Your objection is noted for the record, but County Council has advised that we have properly notified this and that we should proceed according to the way it was notified, and I'm concerned that any change in the agenda would actually be a problem for us. So I'm going to proceed along County Council's recommendations and proceed, and I know that a lot of people are here for that very reason. So I'd like to introduce, have Jonathan Whalen of Optony Inc. Jonathan, welcome back again. Could you come up just so that you're ready for any questions? Let me introduce this item. The proposal that has been public, and can you hear me in the back? Sorry.
No.
And you can come along the sides here. If you went to the trouble to come, you might as well be inside. And there's some empty seats up here. Okay, while you do that, I'm going to introduce this. This item has been discussed at various times over the last couple of years. I don't think it will be necessary to go into a whole new presentation that we did last time and the previous time that it was talked about, but I have asked Jonathan to come to be able to talk about things that have changed, new information that has been provided to us. The additional public hearing is necessitated by additional information that we had since the last hearing, since the September board meeting. There's an additional PG&E rebate that the district had applied for a year ago as part of a lottery system, which we found out subsequent to our last meeting is now available to us for some additional savings. That rebate would expire, or our turn would be lost if we didn't take it by the end of October, which necessitated having to address this again in this hearing this month. We also have additional information on questions that were raised by as prohibitors to approval. So, for example, lifespan and condition of our roofs, CSD energy usage and rate analysis, and a long list of miscellaneous items that were brought up and subsequently in the last month have been addressed in various ways. I'm not taking questions right now.
Well, don't you have to open it up? I mean,
I'm giving an introduction, and then we'll open it up according to the way that the process is for a public hearing. Another major question that was asked in the last meeting was whether contract had been reviewed by County Council. It had not at the time. We had received it right before the meeting. There was an indication by a director that the that we were voting in last month on acceptance of a proposal of a contract that hadn't been reviewed. And it was explained subsequently that that was not the case. The vote basically then and tonight would be to direct the district manager, Tom Horne, to proceed with further review with council and to move forward upon the board's direction that this is something that we would like to do, assuming that all the, the I's were dotted and T's crossed. And then finally, and I'm sorry, and the two other things, there were requests that I received from the public that we not let this go, that we actually, consider it. It was a lot of support that I heard of feelings that, people didn't know what was going to be expiring, whether we still had options to do this. And then the county council also confirmed, because I wanted to make sure that we were proceeding according to our laws, that there were no restrictions on revisiting this as an agenda item, and that there were any procedural errors in terms of notification. I just wanted to be clear with the board and the other directors that a resolution not being passed does not disqualify any consideration of the item in the future, and county council confirmed that that was the case. We're going to get into the letters and comments and questions from the public, but I'd like to allow Jonathan to address some of the things that have information that subsequently have been provided. All of this information has been available on the website. Some of the latest stuff is available here additionally. Tom, I don't know if you had passed that out or it is available. These are charts, but they'll also be indicated here. So I want to make sure that if there are requests for any of the information we're presenting tonight, that it is available. Tom, am I missing anything in terms of an introduction to this? No. Okay. Jonathan represents the consultant that was part of the group that was hired independently to help guide a number of different agencies that are part of this proposal to try to come up with an RFP to shepherd through a selection of a contractor, and basically be someone that could advise all the agencies as an independent body from the actual contractors that we're selecting to be execute the project if received. So Jonathan, please, if you could give us a concise, as much as possible, so we allow for the comments.
Good evening to everyone and everyone out here. I am Jonathan Whalen. I'm a senior project manager with Optony. We are an independent solar project consultant, and we work together with Strategic Energy Innovations, SEI, who is a nonprofit here in San Rafael, to put together the seed fund, which is, just as what President Hansell explained, was a collaboration among 13 different public agencies in Marin, Sonoma, and Napa counties to procure solar publicly under a public procurement. I'm going to go through very quickly, because we have covered a lot of these slides, or all these slides in other meetings. But basically, this just re-explains that the CSD can move forward with solar and no upfront cost for any of the consulting work that Optony and Seed Fund performs. The updates since the last meeting: City of San Rafael, Town of Yonko, almost every public agency that you can see on this screen has moved forward with solar, except for the County of Sonoma that had one very small site that didn't work out economically, and I think that's about it. The City of Cloverdale and City of Nevada is still going to council next month. But every other agency here in the last month to 2 months has moved forward with a power purchase agreement or a purchase with solar and Synergy. Here is a conceptual design of what the solar would look like on both the community center building that we're in right now, as well as on the pool building. And then you can also see a shade structure just south of the top pool. This would be a system that would be about 81.3 kilowatts DC. To give an idea of what this would look like, you can see some of the photos on the left side of what solar canopies or solar even by pools look like. On the bottom right, you can see the current shade structure that exists in that location. The environmental benefits over 25 years, this system would offset around 4.5 million pounds of CO2. You can see some additional reductions to other noxious gases. You can see that would offset about 7.5 million miles in an average car. So that'd be like taking 24.5, 25 cars off the road for 25 years. Pretty big benefit for the environment. I know this is impossible to read from here, but this is just showing the cash flows. It's all been reviewed. What you can see in the middle is the inclusion of the CSI rebates that Board President Hansell talked about. Those were recently offered to the district. We thought that they had run out. The district was on a wait list and just recently pulled from the wait list. So that was very exciting news. That increases the potential savings for the district as money from PG&E. This also includes what the pricing and savings for the PPA rate, PPA project, power purchase agreement project, as well as comparison with the cash purchase option. And because we know this is impossible to see here, we did attempt to graph those three options. You can see the x-axis there, the zero line, is the savings if you were to stay with PG&E and CE. Because that's what's being compared to, that's the baseline there. You can see the red line is cash purchase. That requires an initial investment in year 0, but does provide the greatest return over time. The PPA is the silver line. You can see that curves up. It's the lowest, although it's still pretty substantial savings over 25 years. And then we also modeled the PPA with a year 7 buyout and with a year 15 buyout. And so those are the jobs you see in the yellow line and the blue line to show the options that are available to the CSD if you were to purchase the system during the term of the power purchase agreement. And this is all assuming a 4% annual utility escalation. That's what we've done an independent analysis. That's what we've seen for commercial buildings across the various rate schedules, and particularly the A10 rate schedule, which is very commonly used for facilities like this. This facility is actually on the A6 rate schedule, which is the solar-friendly rate schedule. That rate schedule has increased by about 4.8% over the last 16 years since the deregulation process started. We also wanted to be a bit more conservative, and so ran the numbers with a 2% annual utility escalation. That's what's there, and graphed. Looks just like this. Very similar graphs. You can just see that the upper points are lower because the savings would be lower if PG&E and MCE raise rates less than what they're projected to do. This is all assuming fair market values for the purchases at year 7 and 15. And that's really about it. I included this, which is a relic from previously. This just shows some of the other options that are available out there. But the PPA and the purchase are really what we discussed today.
Thank you. And just for clarification, any document that's presented here that hasn't already been on the website, that's new information, is available. We do have some copies here, and if we run out of copies, which it looks like we might, if you all want to take them, then we can get you more copies of those. The most recent, I think, are these last few that you just showed, which were comparisons of, the 2% versus 4%. Okay. The item B, so for those of you who are students of local government, which we all are to some degree, I think, we are now going to take comments. We'll recognize the letters. There were letters and emails that were sent before this meeting. Some people who said that they could not attend and wanted to have their feelings expressed registered. So we do have an additional packet that has those emails. In order to, because we do have a long agenda tonight, there will be a time limit on the comments for 2 minutes. You can either make just a comment, you can ask a question. Jonathan will stay here available to answer questions, and the manager when he gets back. The guideline is to a couple things that we don't crosstalk against each other. We're adjusting the chair. Basically, it's just what's called Robert's Rules. You don't address other individuals. You just make questions about the argument or the proposals. And as a matter of courtesy, it's nice that if you have a comment that is exactly the same as the comment that you just went before you, that you can just voice that and keep your comment as brief as possible, because we want to make sure we don't have just redundancy for that sake. Are there any questions on how, and then finally, once we have the comment period, then there'll be then there'll be an additional, the actual resolution will be called for a vote. And once we have a vote on that, then we move on to other agenda items. Any questions on just how we proceed? Yes?
Proceedings or the following questions for solar?
I'm sorry?
Questions about the proceeding or about the solar legislation?
Questions about just how we're going to do this over the next 15, 20 minutes? Good? Okay, yeah, no questions on the solar yet. Yes, Linda?
When are we going to be going through the contract, and can we give you questions about the contract?
You can certainly give a question about the contract. We don't have the attorney here to be able to answer specific questions about the contract. I'll again say that the resolution, as before, and again, would be to approve to allow the district director to proceed with the final review of the contract with our attorney to make sure there wouldn't be any other issues. We've already had some response on that. We've already had review of the contract by county council. So internally, we've gotten some response. If you want to add to the list of questions, that's perfectly fine. And we might be able to answer some of them just very quickly.
Okay, because with the supplement that came along with it and the packet and the new contract, there's a few discrepancies here and there that probably have not been covered before.
And that's perfectly fine. Again, the proposal is not to approve the contract as it is. It's to be able to, proceed and iron out any of those final things. And if, at the manager's discretion, if there was an issue, if county council had an issue that was basically advising us against signing because of that issue, it would either be ironed out or we would not sign it, or it would be brought to the board in a subsequent meeting, however it would proceed. We're trying to get the allowance to be able to at least move forward into those discussions. Any other questions about just what we're going to do here? Okay. Great, so I'm going to open I think I have to officially open the public comment period, and if you just keep track of time, and I'll take hands for the first question or comment. Yes?
I have a question. I was at the last meeting when the solar electric proposal was on the agenda, and my understanding was that the board had voted not to proceed, and now we're seeing this where this is a public hearing and we're considering additional information after it had already been voted down by the board. So what I'd like to have is an understanding, does that mean that in the future, if there's an item that comes up on the agenda and the board votes it down, and then somebody comes up with additional information, will that item then have an opportunity for a hearing in the future then?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no restriction on a topic being closed permanently. The logic being to what degree? A month, a year, 10 years, 15 years, forever? Boards change, information changes, so yes. My understanding, and that is what I conferred with county council to find out, to see if there was any restriction. My understanding is there isn't. Next question, leave your comment? Yeah. And if you could introduce yourself too.
I'm Angelique Avanosian. I'm quite visibly a student from the Marin School of Environmental Leadership. In 2012, my team and I actually came here to Marinwood and spoke with Tom about the potential of solar water heating, solar heating for energy. I guess my question pertains to the remaining absence of solar panels here. Is there something big that we're missing? Why don't we have them yet? Thank you.
Well, I think the obvious answer is because we haven't had a proposal that's been approved for them. And the more detailed answer is, in this particular case, is that this process was something that was started a couple years ago and literally took 2 years worth of time to write the request for proposal is the RFP, so that when you go out for contracts, one understands exactly what you're asking for, and then the analysis of the responses, and then the consideration by the different agencies. In this case, there had to be also for rebates to be discounted prices to be approved. A certain number of the agencies had to sign on so that there was a cumulative amount of power that was being generated, which would then give everybody access to discounts. So that's why it hasn't happened so far. And in my tenure, Terry, in my tenure on the board, it was talked about at various times in the past, and there were some attempts to acquire some proposals, but none of them were affordable to us at that time. Stephen?
So you're taking questions now?
This is the period, this comment period is open, so.
Oh, well, this is a question just like hers. Where in this graph do you have the cost for the roof repair, necessary roof repairs prior to the installation of the panels, and also the engineering and construction of the solar array? Just as a reference, we had we spent $28,000 to put a shade structure in Upper Lucas Valley, so I'm guessing this is probably going to cost us a bunch of money. Is this in the projections that we're seeing?
Starting backwards, the cost of the cost of the materials, the cost of the structure, all of that is calculated into the overall financial package of the deal that's here. That was addressed in the responses that was posted online. There was a long list of questions, and one of them was a breakdown of actually the individual costs of how much was going to the panels, how much was going to the structure, how much was going to the inverters. The profit, I think, was in there too. And so that breakdown is there already.
So you have a quote on this structure?
Yeah, it's part of the package. To answer your previous question about roofing, that was one of the issues that was raised in the previous hearing, and the district manager went and got some bids on, went and got an analysis of the structure. Tom, why don't you share that?
Yeah, we did have a recommended roofer for the Duralast membrane system that we have on the roof. He inspected it, and while he was here, also agreed to inspect the dimensional or asphalt shingles on the pool. And so both of them have more than 25 years left. No hesitation about putting solar on them or replacing them before solar. He did note some things around flashings on the vents that needed to be replaced, and so he's given me a price for that, and also the caulking around the top of the membrane flashings up around the vents on this roof need to be redone. It's been like 5 years since 4 years maybe since we've had someone inspect that, and that was Reinhardt Roofing who did the original job, and they're no longer in business.
Bill, real quickly.
Yeah.
Tom, who did the inspection?
State Roofing. They're from the state.
So effectively, I don't think this is.
So if you have a quote, why don't we have a picture of the structure that you want to install?
We have examples of the structure that would be installed.
Examples are not the structure.
It's such a skeletal frame that it's really not something that you need much imagination beyond what was presented. It would be something along the lines of columns with a flat surface above. As a matter of interest, I'll also say that there was another question that came up along the same lines in terms of approvals, was relative to CEQA concerns about, would we be allowed to build something there? And I did have discussion with the planning, one of the planning directors who said that this would be not something subject to CEQA because it's already on an area that's been disturbed where the concrete is located. So I'll just add that into the mix.
I just add something to Steve. If you look at item number 35 in the supplemental packet, that will give you the breakdown of the costs.
Thank you.
Yes, in the back.
My name is Sarah Stilson, and I'm also a member of the Directors School Design and Leadership. And we all have heard about the environmental and financial benefits of solar panels over time. And my question pertains to, if we have such a great opportunity now to install these solar panels on our roofs, what are the disadvantages that could so heavily outweigh these benefits?
I'm going to take that partially as a comment and partially expect that the answers to your questions in terms of objections would come when the directors have a chance to respond, or maybe when there are other comments. And so thank you for asking the question, and I think we'll hopefully see what those objections might be. Yes? Next question. You're all being so polite. Thank you. Joe.
Well, this is This is a three-part comment. I have a 3.5, so it's biased. I have a 3.5 kilowatt system on my house. We just put a 60 kilowatt system on our building in Sausalito. You know, the downside on some part is that technology continues to change, and you know, what I bought 5 years ago, I'd get a hell of a lot more today than if I'd have waited, but at the same time, I watch my meter go backwards all the time. There is a question about, we waited till our roof, in our case, we had like 7 years left and we waited till it was done. This has been built for the business. We have a deal that's a little different than this, where we basically are financing it to purchase, have a buyout period of seven years or so, I think is our first time, where we could buy it, 20 grand left or 30 grand left, something like that. So it's like 2/3 the size of this, it's a little bit smaller. But man, you know, it's the right thing to do, and unless there's some hidden problem out there, I'm a total proponent of it. And I've got, like I say, all I can say about my own is I'd put it in bigger, more of it, and you know, today's technology versus 5 years ago. Best thing you can do.
Thank you. I'm just going to point out 1 second, and let me clarify. You have to ask a question. You can make a comment solely, which is fine, of support or objection. Okay. Just in terms of, let me clarify, or have Jonathan clarify that chart one more time. We'll just use the 4% annual utility escalation for the sake of argument here, even though there is a 2% one. The yellow line where it dips in that first time in 7 years, you'll see is a buyout option where we would be putting out cash. It would drop us into a negative of savings. Basically, those prior 7 years that we had been saving would be offset by this cash purchase, and then it would go up from that. The 15-year, though, the dark blue line is the buyout. Again, you see the dip. That's before the cash expense at 15 years for the buyout. The difference between where the drop is and where the line starts to cross again, where it otherwise wouldn't, is the period of time when that cash flow that you've just expended, you get back to saving money again. So it certainly has been a point of discussion about, and the initial one, the red, orange, sort of burnt number, whatever, orange line, down there at the bottom is just spending an initial $275,000 that, of course, we might find somewhere lying around, but we haven't yet. And therefore, we wouldn't start seeing savings until year 5. I hope that clarifies a little bit what you were talking about.
I was just going to add, I mean, a little bit of question that Stephen raised was the only glitch we had in our whole deal, because we had the same thing. System was designed as part of the deal, you know, was included design, installation. Had to do more with the roofing, so if you don't have to replace the roofing, we ended up having to change mounts because they didn't correctly figure out what kind of roof they were going through, and which had, instead of 100, we had 300 stanchions on. So it's kind of a real straightforward thing. And I'd say the only other unanticipated delay was basically PG&E. Pain in the butt to wait, get the inspections, get them to finally flip the switch. But otherwise, it's been great. 40% of our power, day one.
Thank you. Yeah.
So my name is Brad Sharp. I worked for SunPower, and I worked for SEI.Soled, and now I work for Solar City. Solar City is the largest solar company in the United States, if not the world. I'm here not because I'm interested in this project from my company's perspective, because I only sell to the federal government. I only do big projects. I'm here because I live on Cobblestone, and I saw some things in this document that I got that just isn't true. So some of the information that's floating around as a truism about solar in this document that was reflected, captured from the last meeting, just isn't true. Some of these points about people aren't owning solar anymore, they're buying, this whole thing about buying and leasing, it's not nearly as complicated as everybody thinks. There are a couple ways to do this here. There are actually more. Now, one of the things I'm a little bit disappointed about is that there hasn't been more competition without bringing in, and I'm not trying to be critical here, you don't need consultants to do this. All you need to do is get some companies that do this every day, all day long, and they'll come in and do a proposal for free with the pricing, and this pricing is high. If I saw this in a meeting I would know immediately that we would win this project because we can come significantly underneath the prices that you're looking at right here. 4% of this escalator, no customer I ever talked to would accept that. They accept a 1 or 2% escalator, and you have to work off of that. So it's kind of like, if we're going to look at this, let's not make it so complicated that it's going to fail, because I think a lot of people in here want solar to happen. So let's simplify it. Let's look at the fact that solar's being done by my company every 4 minutes. We're doing a project that size. And so we're not doing big proposals. We're just going out with a design that we do and put it on a carport or put it on a roof or put it in the field. And it's being done for less money in a short period of time. And we're the largest solar company in the United States. We're going to be here in 5 years for that warranty. One of the things that we're not looking at here is the survivability of the company that installs it because of the O&M considerations. So these are some other factors to look at.
15 seconds.
And I can tell you that there is an opportunity to get even better pricing than what you see here.
Thanks for your comment. Through the chair. Solar City was a bidder, and we beat them. Oh, I should say, David Kuhnhart, CEO of Solar Benefit Corporation. So it was a very competitive process. Jonathan's explained that a number of times. Solar City was in fact a bidder, and they didn't win. They were a finalist, but we had a better overall value than they did. This is a small system in the commercial world. I think you referred to most of the systems commercial systems are bigger that get financed. And the other thing that is I want to make sure that we understand is that our escalator is 2.5%, not 4%. The 4% is how PG&E's escalation is being evaluated against our 2.5% escalator. And finally, our escalator is 2.5% for 15 years and minus 10% per year thereafter. No one else in the solar industry is offering that to, particularly to small system clients like this system. I just want to make sure that.
And thank you for the comment, question, and thank you for the response. I'm going to keep it going. We'll assume if there's debate, it's going to be up here. I appreciate the civility. Yes.
My name is Ward Baumum. I'm a Marinwood resident. I was on the Park and Rec Commission a few years ago. I would urge the board to vote for saving money and saving the environment.
Thank you.
Do you own SEI?
Stephen, you're out of order, please.
No,
and board, you don't have to respond. Please do not ask questions. And I'm going to keep going through the room. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Taryn Bauman, and I would just like to say I really would like to see Marinwood as one of the last people that are actually putting solar on the pools. I mean, we've seen all the other places that are putting solar on roofs, and they're saving money on it, and they will be saving even more money, and we will be saving money too if we do it, but we're not. And I think we really have to go ahead with it. That's my comment.
Thank you.
To concur with the young man just said.
Can you say who you're?
I'm Karen Vinton. I'm a Marinwood mom, and I'm also I work for a company that every day deals with large corporations that are making sustainable choices. And I asked the board to consider the lift in goodwill and community standing that Marinwood community would receive in making this decision to go solar.
Thank you. Bruce.
I'm Bruce Anderson, former board member. It appears that there were a lot of questions asked last month, a lot of questions have been asked over the lifetime of this project, and so far, all the answers have been positive answers towards doing solar on this roof. And one of the things that would help me make a decision is what have the other agencies done? Because Marinwood historically has followed the best practices of other agencies. And what's happened here is large agencies like the City of San Rafael, smaller agencies have come out and said, this is a good project. We got involved early because this is a good result from our involvement in this. They've all had their own legal review, even the county, who will also review the contract that comes up here, has already reviewed the contract and approved it for the county of Marin. The project has been reviewed by people that know a lot more than any of the people that are sitting up there or us out here, except for maybe the couple of people that work for the solar companies, but it's been reviewed by people in Somerville whose job this is to do. So I would say the process has been open and the process has been positive so far, and I would urge the board to save money now and not look at something going on later. As Joe here mentioned, do it now. Don't look that 5 years down the line there's going to be new technology. This is a no-cost upfront deal. I've heard some people kind of try to obfuscate that term by saying, oh, the roof needs to be fixed and all that. It's no cost to the CSD to go ahead and proceed at this point. So I urge a yes vote from all 5 members of the board at this point in time, because it's the right thing to do.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Ani Prinjan. I'm also a member of the Marin School of Environmental Leadership. And I just wanted to add something that I think may not be considered, is that going forward with this would also add like great publicity to Marinwood Community Center. And I think that's also valuable, not only to like save money, help the environment, and be proactive. I understand that this might take a while to actually be implemented, but if you're gonna wait, then there might not be something productive in the meantime. And I just think that it would also add publicity to Marinwood.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi. My name is Shea AYE. I'm also a student of the Marin School of Environmental Leadership. And so the projected design would provide shade over the physical top pool, and as a counselor during the summer, it would be great for me and the kids to get a break from the sun, because we're just sitting out there all day. So I think that would be also a benefit for the kids as well as the counselors who work here during the summer.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, I'm Nathan. I'm also a student at the Marin School of Environmental Leadership. And if this proposal passes, which I hope it will, what are the benefits in the community, because I'm a community member, what are the benefits in the community that we can see once these savings are offset?
Again, thank you, Nathan, without getting into a lot of extraneous details, I can tell you that the current state, I'll answer it in terms of the current budget state of the CSD. The CSD has, for a number of years through the recovery from the recession, been in need of money, and our expenses have exceeded our revenue, the money that we take in. And in 2 forms, operationally, how much money we spend on a day-to-day, month-to-month, annual basis, but we also have money that we have to think about for retirement costs that we pay for our employees in years to come. And this year, for example, the CSD was able to not spend about $100 and something thousand, 100 and change. Our target has been on an annual basis to get to the point where we are taking in about $300,000 more than what we're spending. And so any savings, no matter where it comes from, could be helpful towards us achieving that goal. And that goal of not spending that amount of money every year means that we'll be able to, in our future, in your future, address the kind of costs that we've already signed up for and already have to accommodate. So when there are savings from this, just in terms of the financial savings, they will go, probably to money that we already need, versus other additional things. We'd love to get to a point where we could do other kinds of upgrades, and we'll continue to do that. But at the very least, what this proposal means is instead of spending on average $20,000 something a month for electricity, we would be saving. We would be spending 5, or it changes every year. But the point is that we would be spending less from day one, and hopefully those projected savings would increase, and it would either allow us some cash to be able to buy some things, or just to be able to save for the future.
Please, can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Based on what you just said, would it be the case that if we do not do this, there may have to be a tax increase to pay for the existing services provided by Marin?
If you look at the history of the district's finances for a number of years, You'll see that we have the majority of our costs are labor costs for our staff, and we have a certain amount of other fixed costs for the building and services, and sometimes those vary, sometimes those portions of those are fixed. And as I said, we have not been, in the last few years, we've been able to better come closer to budgeting, meeting our budgets, our projected budgets, which are, as I said, projected budgets of $300,000. If we continue on a track of either not finding other things to cut, yeah, there's either services get cut or taxes are increased, or revenues increased or expenditures are decreased. Large portion of our costs are fixed because fire department, about half of our budget is not very flexible, and of course we want to keep our life safety. And our park and rec side is often a revenue generating thing, so if we cut programs we end up making less money, so you might be cutting something and then turning around and not really saving anything. So that's, I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Jo James, I'm a Marinwood resident. My question, I think, is this proposal was already put to everybody and the board could not come to a decision, they turned it down. So my question is, do the board not want solar, or do they not want this solar deal? Because for me, I find it very difficult to understand why you wouldn't want to go ahead with a solar option. So I'm just wondering whether there are some negative thoughts actually pertaining to this this proposal as opposed to actually going solar.
I'd like some of that response to come in the form of the debate from the directors and allow time for remaining public comment, if you can address it.
I was going to respond that I don't think that there's any way that the board is opposed to going solar.
Okay.
Given the information that we had and understood at the time of the last vote, a majority of the board was not comfortable. There is more information and more understanding now, which is why it's on the agenda again.
Thank you.
Tim Stapleton, Marinwood resident. Can you tell me what has to happen to secure this grant from PG&E by the end of the month?
In order to secure it, we basically have to put a deposit down of $2,500 or something like that, and then it will secure our spot for it, and then we get that back, I think, when we proceed with the project. And there seems to be a kind of mysterious unknown intelligence in the universe that decides when these rebates can become available and to whom and how long they last and all the other kinds of things. So we might have to hold a seance if we wanted some other rebate. Linda.
I have one quick one and then a little bit going back to the roof situation. I had written in about Symmetric and the solar panels and whether they were from China. And the answer was, oh, no, these are fine, they're maybe a little bit of China, but not much. So what I did is I went to the Suniva, I'm sorry, it's Suniva. I get all these names mixed up. It says they contain over 80% US parts, but they're made in China. And
I can respond to this, and I have.
Oh,
sorry,
but
let me just
may
have
I
the.
finish
Sorry.
my question, please?
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Then there was another comment on the Suniva website that said, but you can get a special something or other, which will cost you a little bit more money, to get 86% of the parts made in the United States. I just want to mention that.
If it's okay, I'm going to ask the providers to respond. Yeah. I should also say, I think the other part of your question, I'll throw this in there, was whether we're required to buy
yes,
American,
and you
or
said
that's
no,
just a
we don't
preference.
need to do made in
And that's my
America.
understanding,
Right.
too, yes.
So Suniva is
Did you
a US
introduce yourself?
based-
Sorry.
My name's David Potomsky. I work for Symmetric. We're the, if the board decides to move forward, we would be the contractor building it with local labor, something you can't outsource. Suniva is a US-based company based in Atlanta, Georgia. Suniva, the solar panel manufacturer based in Atlanta, Georgia. They have just finished or probably not finished, but they are building another factory in Michigan to ramp up their production. And what they've done is they actually have to outsource some of their labor because their supply, the capacity, they didn't have the capacity to meet the supply. So the cells are made in the US and many of the parts, and then they actually have sent some to China to be assembled. And that is a certain proportion, I can't tell you exactly. But their intention is, and I talked to a rep from the company, is that by Q1 of 2015, that everything, 100% will be made, assembled in the US.
Made and assembled?
Right.
Okay, well, I didn't really need an answer because I was just making a comment.
Oh, thanks. Okay.
And I wanted to be short because my question
Go ahead.
is about the rooftops. And that was another question that I sent in, and Mr. Horne said that the expected life of each roof is 25 years. And I'm questioning the roof that we have over the pool that's 14 years old now, which is a 40-year roof. Now, when I put my 40-year roof on, I was told by the roofing company that it's going to last 30 years. I was also doing a lot of research about roofs, which say the weather, the traffic on the roofs, the sunshine on the roofs, et cetera, et cetera. Also, with the solar, we're mounting the solar panels, right? So we'll be putting nails into the roof. How can you possibly say, and I can't understand how there possibly could be 25 years left on a roof that's a 40-year roof that's really only going to last 30 years and is 14 years old. And I wanted to know if the roof inspector has a guarantee saying that this will happen and it won't affect our warranties on the roof and that kind of thing.
Right. I'll take it as partially comment, partially question. Tom,
Okay,
can you answer
thanks.
the question portion? Or you can just confirm one.
Yes, so the roofer said that yes, he would not hesitate to put panels up there for 20 years or 25 years. He had a recommendation that we have an additional inspection right before the installation, and that is to document the condition, and then an inspection after. And the installation, certainly on any piercings of the roof, would have to be done by a contractor, a qualified, certified Duralast contractor.
Right. Oh, that's on this building.
Yeah. Those over there, he said they were in great shape. They are dimensional, shingles with a texture to them, no degradation. A couple of the cap shingles were broken back and need to be replaced. I have his proposal for the repair work. But he also pointed out that the solar shades the roof and prolongs the life.
I'll just
But
add.
is there a guarantee?
No.
Yeah.
His inspection is not guaranteed.
Again, it's taken as a comment, and for the record, I'll just add, if I can, that whatever the life cycle of the roof is the life cycle of the roof, regardless of whether there's solar there or not. I do think, and I heard the same thing, that reducing UV impact directly on the roof is going to increase the lifespan. And I'll tell you that in terms of actually because the damaging sunlight is not hitting the roof, it's actually hitting the panels. And then in terms of penetrations, obviously every system that happens on a roof anywhere has penetrations that then are flashed around, protected. So those actually issues are addressed as part of the installation.
Waterproofing, yes. But do they mess up the warranties on the roofs?
There's different coverage for the installation because the installers are doing it are taking on a certain amount of liability for the quality of their craftsmanship. So you can't. Let me put it this way: the only way you can avoid this question is by not having any solar panels on roofs anywhere. And so if you want to go, that's what your baseline is, yes, that you can avoid that issue by just never having solar on roofs.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question following that? Does the proposal include
Could you speak up a little bit?
Could you speak up?
Yeah, does the proposal include having the installation done by a Duralast qualified contractor?
Yes.
Okay, and so does the cost include the inspection before and after, or is that, okay? And Linda, just in regards to warranties, generally, if you use the certified contractor, then it doesn't void your warranty, which is the reason why you use the certified contractor. So.
Bill, did you have anything else, Nina?
I want to keep going through, Stephen. I can do. I will
Just
come back
have-
to you just as long as there's no
I
other.
think it's relevant to point out our park maintenance manager's comments regarding this issue that Linda has brought up. In the Park and Rec meeting minutes, in the second area, it says, Harry asked Harrelson to show the commissioners the water stains that Nessel referred to in his correspondence with the board. Harrelson replied, it is not of concern. The staining is due to the beams being exposed to the elements. The beams need to be resealed. There is no mold evident. During this past week, I did look through some of the roofing structure in the pool area. And while there is a majority of staining that I see where Gary is talking about, some of the beams that would be evidently exposed to the elements, there's beams that are well within the roof structure that, unless we have rain that's coming from the ground up, would not be getting water damage. So I appreciate the questions that you bring up, Linda, and for me personally, I don't think those issues have been fully addressed.
I'll just say that if there's any damage to the existing structure or roofs or whatever, regardless of this proposal, it needs to be, fixed. We made an attempt since the last meeting to have an assessment by a professional to that end. If we happen to go forward with this and we get in the first month $15,000 worth of savings and want to take some of that money and spend it on fixing the roofs as opposed to not taking the savings and having to spend that money outright, which we'd have to do anyway, I'm not sure how that really is affected by the solar, other than the fact it might give us some cash to do the actual work that we might have to do anyway. Other comments, because we're going to wrap this up soon, and I want to make sure you've been here. I've been asking for them. Stephen, I'm going to the new people. Go ahead.
I was just curious to understand what the hesitation comes from. And why is there a hesitation? It makes total sense to go with solar. And what is really what sticks?
Okay, well, I think, again, I'm going to take, we're going to have a chance to address that on a director-by-director basis as part of the option, the vote for it, or comment for the vote. If you want to express your support or objection, that would be helpful.
I support solar.
All right, thank you.
I think it really makes sense.
Yes.
I'm Michael Kessel, a student at Marine School of Environmental Leadership. I support the solar panels being installed. I also believe that they would create more income with the pool, because many people would like to support businesses that are going green rather than people that are not. So it just creates people that want to support that, so they would come here rather than some other pool that doesn't have solar panels.
Again, Steve, before I come back to you, I just want to see any other fresh comments of somebody that hasn't been able to speak. Stephen.
I'm Stephen Schaub. I'm a Marinwood Appleberry resident, and I'm down here representing my wife and my child. And I wanted to, say I'm really impressed with the turnout, especially the youth, and it's the main reason that I came here. And I would like, as a community, as a supporter of the board, as an individual, to be proud of what we do here. And I think that is simply the right decision. I think there's ample precedent, which is this list up here. So I would urge the board to move forward.
I'll echo again my thanks to the students for coming out and caring about things that are important to your future and seeing at the very least what the process of government is. To that end, I do want to wrap up the public comment period. I'm holding your comment, Stephen. I just want to allow any other final comments or support. You can just say you're in support or not. In the back, yeah, sorry, and then in the front.
I'm Morgan McDaniel, and I'm in the Marine School of Environmental Leadership. I definitely support the pool going solar. I think there are many communities that are beneficial impacts, and I also think that there are many environmental impacts.
Thank you. In the front?
I'm Anna Paula, and I'm in the Marin School of Environmental Leadership, and I'd just like to say that I support SEI.
Thank you. Any other comments, support, or sorry, David, then Linda, and then Stephen.
So just one quick point of clarification. Mr. Horne has gone to see the very specific manufacturer that we're proposing, as well as the very specific design and size and dimensions that we're proposing. So this shouldn't be, and the pictures that he brought back do reflect that. So this really isn't a mystery, and I would be happy to lead a tour of anybody that would like to go see this for the city. We build systems for the city of El Cerrito and the city of San Pablo with the same exact manufacturer and the same exact design that we're proposing here. And then secondly, on the contract, I would like Jonathan, if there are any questions, to expand on the significant effort and dollars that were spent by the city of San Rafael and a legal firm that represents Energy Law to negotiate this contract on behalf of all members of SEED. So this is not some contract that is blindly coming to county's council and the district's council. It's been vetted, and it's been vetted to the nth degree by 12 other entities who have signed it.
Thank you. Linda, you're next. Let me just comment before I forget. I'm not going to read them
skipping
out,
over me.
but I haven't forgotten these. It's hard to. I want to just refer to, these will be in the meeting minutes or records of the meeting, that, sorry, Steve. I did receive these emails. I'm not going to read them individually. In total, I received 13 support emails. There were, I think, a couple of these that were in the packet that came in before we went out for notification, and then these, the ones I'm referring to, are additionally coming in since then. A couple of those people have spoken. There's a large number of people here on this list and my list where I haven't, they're not here. I have, as a matter of record, I have 2 emails of objection, and I have 2 emails that involved questions, extensive questions that were addressed, and one of those was a sort of implied hesitation, or until those questions were addressed, so I'm not really where that falls in terms of just the email whole. Okay, Linda, and then Stephen.
Well, okay, again, I'm sorry, I have a really, really quick one. I just want to make sure that all the students here realize that the solar is not going to be heating the pool. Just want to let you know that. So my question is about the Danlin Corporation. There's 4 subcontractors that actually install the solar panels, and for us and several other agencies, the Danlin Corporation has been chosen. And they happen to be a general contractor kind of a company that take care of kitchens and bathrooms and sewer lines and gas lines and all that kind of stuff. I know they do solar as well. But my question is, why don't we have some solar, like 100% solar installers? Why do we have somebody like a general contractor installing?
Okay, thank you for the question, David. David, I had to, sorry. Can we have the providers? Yeah, sorry, the contract.
Danlin has been installing solar since the 1970s. They are incredibly qualified. They're electrical contractors. There's a lot of structural issues here. There is a major component of general contracting as well. So they are eminently qualified to do this. And they're building the system for the Marin Energy Authority at the Rockport that's multiple megawatts. So they've been chosen for that. I would put their resume up against anybody's.
One of the additional qualifications of them as general contractor and solar contractor is that they can do prevailing wage jobs and all the compliance with the public sector agencies that we're working with.
Okay. Is there anything different that you wanted to add?
Just a little addition. Linda, in response to your question, when a project involves the scope of a lot of specialties within the contracting world, not just a plumbing job or not just an electrical job, then the project has to be overseen by a general contractor. It's just the way the law works.
And they're located here in San Rafael, so their tax dollars and their payroll will be here in the county, which we're really happy about. And that was one of the reasons why we were chosen.
Stephen.
Well, my last month I said Russ never sleeps, and it still doesn't sleep. We've got lots of issues, and I'd like to say that I support solar, and I'm love the fact that we have all these students here. I myself was an environmental educator at Boston University's sergeant camp in the 80s. And so I'm sympathetic to the issues. It's not really a question of solar. It's really, as my neighbor had expressed, it's this solar packet. There are some issues here that need to be addressed, and it really is a financial decision. We've got, not all costs are reflected in this presentation. One of the largest costs is the technical obsolescence. I have in the packet an article just recently from the Washington Post that said 80%, the prices for solar arrays have dropped 80%. What this means is in a couple years, they're going to be cheaper. How much cheaper? We don't know, but if the trends continue, probably, another 30%. That's an important point, because the whole reason for this program is to provide environmental benefits, but also to save money. So, why don't we do it now? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and that has to do with the financial health of the district. We have, those of you who are local understand this, we have a maintenance shed that literally is falling apart and should not be occupied, and if an inspector saw it, I'm sure they would condemn it on the spot. That's $150,000 to replace. We have no capital reserves to address that. And
Ward, it's not, sorry, Stephen, Ward, it's for me to say, and Tom's registered.
That's these 20 seconds over.
Okay, 10 seconds.
lastly, Ward here and Cyan Dantrix got this contract as exclusive
Let me just point out.
No, hold on for a second. This is an important issue.
No direct addressing of other individuals. You are only to speak.
Okay, I will speak to you then.
No, not about. You are not to address any personal issues.
It's not a personal issue. It's a legal issue.
If you want to talk about the issue, this is a great lesson for the students. If you want to talk about the issue, talk about the issue, but you're not trying to assassinate characters.
I am not assassinating characters. You're assassinating mine.
I'm being very generous.
Don't appreciate that. Here's what I'd like to say. This contract, this exclusive contract by SEI was decided outside a board meeting without public review. The sitting board director, when this was brought up, Cyan Dantrich is the principal of SEI. It was not mentioned at the first meeting. There are issues and fair political practices, and there's.
I'd ask you to.
I'm not gonna. I'm gonna finish this. I'm finishing this because the costs that you expect to save are going to be eaten up. They're eaten up by the potential legal fees of improper conduct on behalf.
Please have order, Stephen. All right,
You've been told multiple times.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. My dad had this gavel in 1958, and that's why I brought it today. I'm gonna let you want to address
just very technical. Yes, the excellent article from the Washington Post that was referred to does say that in the last 5 years, solar panels have come down by 75%. You would agree with that as well. It's true. And that is absolutely true. And that is why the solar panels are only 27% of the cost of this, as we look at the answer to question 35, if solar panels were to go down by 50% more, and in fact, they're leveling out, if not going up.
They've started to go up.
They've started to go up, thank you very much for that. Then this district would save approximately $3,000 a year if the price were to drop by 50% more, which nobody who is expert in the solar business thinks is going to happen. And the primary reason, and the decline in the past has made it possible to get us to the point of offering savings in year one and increasing savings in every other year to you. The reason that the overall cost of solar is not going to go down more and isn't elsewhere is that so much, that is, there's only 27% of panels. All the rest is labor, engineering, other things that are built here and are high-tech pieces that cost money. And those are leveling off, if not slightly going up, particularly on the labor side. So the curve is leveling out. The historic curve is not a predictor of the future.
Okay.
Well, you took multiple things. Here's an article by Barclay has down.
You're out of order.
Look, you've been taking multiple questions from everybody else.
Every individual here has had a single question, and you've had multiple ones, plus you're going beyond.
Okay, this is Barclays Bank.
Sorry, Stephen.
Is downgrading utilities
So for students,
because of
there's
solar.
a sergeant of arms, which in this case would be the county sheriff, who would come and eject someone from the meeting if they just failed to follow the rules of the meeting. So short of inconveniencing the deputy sheriff, I would ask you to please stop. Thank you. So let me tell you where this goes now. We're going to close the public hearing portion. Thank you for all your comments. What happens next is that the resolution is proposed. Some of you had asked some questions that you wanted to hear responses to. You're going to hear those next as part of the discussion amongst the board, and then the vote of the board. And after that point, we move on to other agenda items. I appreciate your attendance again and sticking with us and allowing for everyone to get a chance to express themselves. So the particular resolution, as it reads, is Resolution 2014-10, Resolution of the Board of Directors of the Marinwood CSD, authorizing the district manager to execute a site-specific power purchase agreement for solar PV installation and operation at Marinwood Community Center and Marinwood Community Pool with Solar Benefit Corporation, and take all actions and execute all other necessary documents to implement the projects. I'll point out that in the whereases that are part of this explanation of what the resolution is, the Board of Directors conducted the hearing, and it would be changed to be October to Tom. This date.
I'm sorry.
Date.
Yes, it is changed in the one for signature.
Thank you.
Today's
After requiring 2 weeks' notice, it has determined that findings can be made that the project anticipated cost for solar energy services under the proposed PPA will be less than the anticipated marginal cost of energy that would have been consumed by the district in the absence of this purchase. And it's that the board authorizes and directs the district manager to enter into a site license and power purchase agreement attached here to incorporated herein by reference, subject to final approval as to form by county council. So again, approval here means that county council will still be able to address any other issues with us, and I would, as we've done before and other things, encourage the district manager to keep the board informed of concerns by the county council that might become last-minute deal breakers, or things that county council urges us to consider. County council communications are privileged. That means that we can keep those amongst ourselves as a matter of legal review. So I'm going to ask, for the benefit of our audience here, that we have a motion for this resolution.
I move that we adopt resolution number 2014-10 as presented.
I have a second. Thank you. So, students, we have a motion and a second for this, and that means that there is a comment period. Normally that would include public comment as well. I think we've already established all the public comments. So with our director attorney, I'd also ask if we just move into comments by directors.
Right.
And
This
this
is
is
the
the time for us
discussion
to discuss
period
it.
after
so.
the motion, before the vote, for discussion
Bill,
amongst the board
we
members.
take a set of 4 of all of these things and hand them to someone who will distribute them
Okay.
Sure.
to the students.
This is the information, this
Yeah,
is the new
this-
information.
Right,
Uh,
right.
Science here, she can distribute them.
So
You
we're just have a
said
moment, we're
you've
gonna have-
received all the comments. I'd like to comment.
Stephen, we've had multiple chances to comment. I think we really have heard.
But I haven't
and then we've
finished
had-
my comment,
Well, I'm
so-
sorry, Stephen, but I'm going to move. I've already closed the comment period, and I'm moving on to the comments by the directors.
Well, I'll just announce the comment.
Again, I'm calling you out of order, Stephen. I'm asking you civilly to not do that and to not have to be ejected from the meeting. Just please follow the rules that everyone else here is willing to follow.
Right.
You've made your points in previous meetings before. I have a feeling that they're going to be the same points. You've already had a chance, more chances than anybody else in this room to be able to, address these things. So I'm moving to comments by the directors. Terry.
This proposal, we've been looking at it, working on it. We being a very large pool of people, many of them qualified to do so, for a very long relative time. Yes, solar technology is going to continue to improve. Solar panel prices will continue to fall. How much and when is not predictable. If we go forward with this project, we will save money starting the day it goes online. That is known. How much? We don't know. Will we save money? Yes. Does it cost us anything up front to do this? No. Is it the right thing to do environmentally? I believe absolutely yes. I don't think it's the final best solution for all time, for all of the world, but that's not what we're voting on. Let's just get it done.
I can just ask you to hold your applause or reactions of anything. Justin.
Sure. The question was posed earlier if this board was opposed to solar in general or opposed to this implementation of solar. And for me personally, I think solar is the right direction that the district should go in. I think overall it makes a lot of sense. However, I think there are issues and unknowns with this implementation, and something that has not been discussed at length is that our district is in a period of significant transition right now. We are in the midst of the search for a new district manager, and it's been brought up multiple times that our existing district manager does not have the resources or the expertise to handle much less an RFP for solar. So I have significant concerns when we are placing trust in this individual at a time when he will be departing the district literally within the next few months, to give him the authority to enter into the site license agreement and the power purchase agreement. Something that has been done by this board before is to not encumber future boards with decisions that the board has made for moments in the future, and I think this is another time when that should come into consideration. I think what we should do is look at solar in the future when we do know that, like practically all other technology will be cheaper and significantly improved only with time. So I think it would be irresponsible for us to go into such an agreement at this time of significant flux when we will be having a new district manager at the beginning of the year and can revisit this at that time. Other issues that I have with it that I wanted to bring up at the initial part of the meeting that I think need to be addressed are issues of use of public time, use of staff time and public resources, given the vote that happened from the last CSD meeting. And my concern in particular really goes down to, and wanted to ask Tom, it seems quite evident that you spent significant energy, time, and resources on putting a presentation together for this meeting, putting this packet together. Given the direction of the board at the last meeting, where did you get the direction to invest such time into this reinvestigation?
Actually, I started it when we got the grant information from PG&E, and also had discussions with Bill and with Optony, and answering a lot of the questions that had been brought up. It's my responsibility to do what I think is in the best interest of the community, and I thought that this should be merited reconsideration by the board.
Normally,
all right, I'm going
to
allow the question and I allow the response, but I really don't want to get into a debate against this,
Oh.
because as part of the presentation at the beginning,
I see.
I introduced
You're
the fact that council had advised
Well,
both that we were
we're okay.
proceeding according to our allowable guidelines to put this back on the proposal. I'm going to let it sit at that. So if you want to make another
that's nice,
point.
Bill, but you were just another board member on this board, so I think there are other significant concerns that I still need to address.
Address your concerns relative to the merits of this proposal for solar, if you would.
I'm doing that, so thank you for your direction. And Tom, I would generally agree with you, but given the direction of the board so recently, I think what would have been more prudent and the general protocol would be for this issue to be brought back to the board, and for the board to inform you whether we should continue in this direction or not. For you to unilaterally go in this direction in contradiction to what the board had just instructed you, I think is a significant concern of mine.
Right.
Furthermore, an issue that I wanted to bring up before we got into this as far as we have is, because this was now agendized and brought back up, from my understanding, there has been a Brown Act violation.
Again, now I'm going to cut you off because you're getting into areas which, first of all, that's been refuted, and secondly, because it was raised, this has now become a part of council privilege between the board and your.
What was raised?
Because there was an objection that was raised to be investigated. It is now something that is basically confidential, privileged information between the board, and we can't comment on it.
Well,
so I ask you to stop commenting on this issue, because again, you're going against council's direction to and addressing something which is not only that, but it's also has nothing to do with whether this agreement should be accepted or not, or whether this community should have solar or not. So again, I'm going to cut the conversation off on that point that you're trying to address, which is now part of
in the best
information.
interest of the district, I think it would be prudent for us to let this issue lie where it was determined at the last meeting, rather than have the issues that have come up since that time, which very, from my understanding, would warrant an investigation that I think the district would benefit from not having going into.
The council's already commented on that, and I'm not going to go into that area. All I know is that we are proceeding according to an approved legal way to do this. And I will say that it's been discussed before.
Where is the information? Because it has not been shared.
It's now been part because it was.
But it has not been shared with the rest of the board. So this has been shared only with you.
This is how it works. When an issue comes up like this, it now enters into basically a closed conversation with council, because it was brought up recently in terms of
that conversation has not happened with the rest of the board.
That's because it was just brought in, and because it was brought in as a way to not allow the public to basically just hear the merits of this argument. So again, you're trying to shut down the discussion about the merits of the solar proposal relative to some procedural thing which has already been established as being okay, by the
This was already
by the
addressed
council.
in our last meeting.
As I said before, county council on any issue, and I'll go back to my statement at the beginning to the first question was, when the board takes an action on I will finish my sentence. When the board takes an action on a resolution or a proposal, it does not mean that that action or consideration or topic cannot be discussed again, especially when there is a timetable that where something comes up. And the PG&E rebate is exactly that thing. Without board action on this before the end of this month, in the next couple of weeks, that will expire. And so it's was in the public's best interest to consider this again, especially so that we would have an additional savings of $11,000. And there's no harm. And I think everybody's attendance here proves the fact that the community is interested in having this discussed. So I'd ask you to move on to a different item if you want to talk about the actual merits of this proposal and this PPA.
So,
and if there's a legal process that will go through with the DA and with the county council, that will happen, and it will be privileged as it suitably will be. But it's the process that was started, now it can't be undone until it's determined by someone that there is an issue or not. But we're not going to determine it tonight.
So my primary concern is with our outgoing district manager, who will be in charge of overseeing such a project? And we don't have an answer.
Well, when we had the pool remodel done, we hired a construction manager. When we had the pool built, we hired a construction manager. We had a construction manager when the remodel was done in 1992. That's normally how this is done. It's not necessarily someone who is an inspector on site all the time, but it is someone who is your advocate with the contractor.
But again,
I'll address my response. I think you've raised the point, and Tom's addressed it.
I'm just going to say one last thing. Again, if you, since you would be in charge of negotiating this, and again, since we will have a new district manager at the beginning of the year, if they have concerns or issues with that, I think it's most wise for the district not to be encumbered by that with this transition.
Again, I think it's been asked and answered. So,
I have a few comments. So, can we go to the cost slide? So if you can't read it, the number on the top for projected utility costs without solar is 42,000 and change. What makes up that number?
And to address that, the 42,000 comes from the historical usage of the district for both the pool electrical meter as well as the community center electrical meter, with an additional approximately, I don't know the percentage, approximately 50% usage at the community center based upon the installation of the new AC units that were just recently installed. So the past usage here has been approximately 31,000, which were the original numbers used in the analysis. But then at staff direction and at board direction, the impact of the new AC units was added to the analysis.
Was it added to seasonal?
Correct. There
Okay.
was, yeah, exactly.
So that was 31,000, and with the new AC units, it's 11,000 more.
That's the projection. Certainly, we
So
can't.
is that covered in your most recent PG&E statement, because they've been in for a while?
I gave him that information. We had the July and August usage.
And what I was going to say, so the only usage that we can really compare so far has been August 2014 to August 2013. And the year-to-year difference there was a 39% increase at this meter, the community center meter. And yeah, that's 1 month worth of data, but it is pretty indicative that there will be pretty substantial increases here.
So I looked at the PG&E numbers quickly today. I don't have it factored in a cost comparison that I did, but I find it hard to believe that one AC unit covering the size that we have over there would increase costs by $11,000, but I'll double check that. I ran my own numbers for this, and with the 4% escalator, I come up with significantly less cost year over year than what you're projecting, and a saving significantly less than what you're projecting. And I think that it would be beneficial for us to review that, because over a 15-year period, and I admit there is savings, but it's $100,000 versus approximately $500,000 that's being put out there, and I really think that we need to look at that. And that's with the 4% escalator. Our current historical over the past 12 years has been for the community center a increase year over year of about 0.5%, and at the pool it has been, I believe, a little over about 4%. So going with a 4% escalator compared to our historical is actually quite generous.
Sorry, can you address that in relative to what you just distributed today? That was 5 point.
Sure, I can address both. What you are seeing as far as the year-over-year cost comparisons are based on your total electrical costs here at the CSD. What they aren't taking into consideration are the costs per kilowatt hour used. And because of the energy efficiency improvements that have been made here, your costs have continued to increase slightly, while your KWH, your energy usage, has actually decreased. And so we actually, as part of the analysis that Optony has done, has been looking at what PG&E rates from 1998 to 2014 applied to a consistent usage pattern have looked like over that time. And for the sample facility that's on the same electric rate schedule as the district's meters, we got to about 4.84% annual increase. We actually plugged in the district's combined utility usage at the pool meter and at the community center meter, and got about 5.48% as the year-over-year dollars per kilowatt hour increase, which includes the meter costs, the energy costs, and the demand costs, the power costs as well.
Yeah, but I think that it's unrealistic to think that we're not going to do any energy upgrades over the next 15 years, 15 to 20 years. And there's we recently did lighting. There's more lighting that we could do. We got a rebate for that, and it decreased our energy costs. There's our cost at the community center has increased over a 12-year period by 6.4%, and the cost of the pool has increased by almost 50%. So it shows you where we should be focusing our energy efficiency upgrades. And this is something that I brought up at the board meeting, at the last board meeting, and one reason why I voted against this, and please don't boo me, but if you want to, you can, is that, we have a responsibility as board members to look, to both look at the financial aspects as well as the environmental aspects, as well as the, projection out to the community. And, I've made publicly in other meetings that I'm not against solar. I think it would be fantastic if we do solar. I love seeing solar on buildings, but I'm not sold on this particular project. I would really like to see us invest our energy and time and resources, not physical energy, but as board members and staff, on efficiencies to the equipment that we have. I just think it's completely unrealistic for us to think that the pool equipment that we have is going to be the same pool equipment that we have over the next 15 years. And we recently, in the last Parks and Rec meeting, we did a tour and looked at the equipment there, and I think that huge efficiencies can be gained, which would potentially save us more than what we're saving from the solar projects. And I don't know, because I don't know what those are, and I know that, Tom, you've commented on that. But I really think that it needs to be evaluated further myself. You know, there's minimal things that we can do to the community center itself, and a 5% increase, a 0.5% increase historically, I don't know that we would need to do anything. So I have a problem with these numbers. I don't believe these numbers, I'm sorry, but I don't, and I think that they need more evaluation, and so that's something that I would like to see before the board approves this. And you know, one thing is that we do solar, but we concentrated on an area that needs solar the most. It's going to give us the greatest payback in the most efficient time, which would be obviously the pool based on the information that we have. I'm happy to share my numbers with anybody, but I did not bring enough copies for everybody that's here. You know, there was questions, why wouldn't we do this? And the reason why I wouldn't do it right now is, one, for what Justin said, is that we have a lot of stuff going on right now. We have a new district manager and everything else that he said, and I just think that it's not the right time for us to move forward. This is an incredibly complicated contract, and I mean, you can see my red lines. I have a significant number of that I can go through some of the highlights of my comments, but in my mind, it puts a lot of the risk on the district and not so much on the solar company. And if my numbers are correct, I think that the cost over the duration of the project doesn't warrant the risk, and I would rather look at another project. Also, you know, some of these items of why this is being brought back on the agenda were items that actually all, except for the letters that were recently in the response to the PG&E rebate, even though I asked about the PG&E rebate, were all asked on February 24th. So the fact that this is new information is hard to believe when the questions were asked on February 24th. And then a lot of people have commented that there's no upfront costs, and just in this meeting, I've heard what I believe are upfront costs, which are upfront costs and costs to the owner, which I don't believe are included in these cost comparisons. And I think that they need to be, for us fully to look at what the cost of this is going to be, and are we actually paying more or less. I think we need to look at all the costs. We need to look at the cost of insurance. We need to look at the upfront cost to execute, including legal counsel review. We need to have some sort of allowance for roof, which I think will be more onerous to repair with solar panels on. I also think that we need to add in the cost that we brought up today for the roof, which is the before and after inspection. I am glad that a qualified person is on board to do the installation. You know, they bring up things like an internet line, an external project manager. There's additional tree trimming that we have to do. I mean, all of these things add up, and there's a lot more in here that some of them are upfront costs, and some of them are costs throughout the life of the project that have not been factored in. All that's been looked at here is the cost of power itself. I have concerns with SEI.Soled that's been in business since 2013. I would just like to see, and maybe it's in the RFP responses, but I would like to see financial statements and have some sort of security, just as a matter of fact. I would also like to see a list of references, like somebody mentioned there's a lot of contractors that are involved in this, and I would like to talk to some of the references myself. I really have a lot of comments, and I think that they're important for us to go over as a board. I don't know if everybody's aware, but we can't talk about it among us board members outside of the public meeting. And there's there's just so many, I have so many comments on this contract that, I mean, I don't know that you want me to continue, but.
I think we'd like to make time for everyone to equally contribute.
Okay.
So, all right, so my bug on this whole project has been 20 years that we're gonna be stuck with this. Not stuck, but we're gonna have this project here for 20 years. It's just, I enjoy the cost savings because basically that's what I was elected to do, is try to find ways in which we're gonna save money.
Here's your chance.
I just have, I have huge, huge reservations tying your hands for 20 years with inherent risks. Solar is nice, I guess. It's great for the environment. Everybody's on board. I just have a real hard problem with 20 years. That's it.
I have a question.
I'm gonna make my comment, and
Okay.
I'd like to proceed.
I would like to ask some questions after that, though, after your comments.
I think we've gone so long, Justin, and I really want to get to the vote, and I think let me make my comments.
These are just quick
so
questions.
I know this is going on really late. There's a lot of young people here really wanting to hear the end of the game, and this is like the Giants game.
They're riveted.
This is like the 18th inning of.
So you guys know,
Can you please
do it until 11. So.
Please, very quickly.
As long as I can ask my questions after, that's fine.
I'd like to make my comments final, Mike. So,
Okay,
what are your
then
questions?
I can ask
You've
them
had
real
your time.
quickly. I can ask, then will you let me ask them quickly? Okay.
Not to it.
In some of the questions that were asked regarding Bill's concern with the 20-year contract, I did see that the maintenance is agreed to for 10 years. What happens for the second portion of the 20-year contract?
So so that is actually, what you saw as far as the 10-year operations and maintenance agreement is actually between the financier and the project developer. What the financier is guaranteeing to the district would be a 20-year operations and maintenance agreement, and they'll manage that internally. So there is no gap there. And then as far as the 20-year commitment, there are buyout options at year 7 and year 15, which is why we showed this essentially to show that there are those options. If the district wants to purchase the system, purchase it and get rid of it and do something else, then that's an option. But did want to point out that is something that's out there.
I'll say one more thing about cost.
Seriously.
Well,
You're gonna go to your questions, or there's, go ahead.
This is the time for discussion for the board.
I just
So
asked you to
please
respect the time of the public.
Please allow this to happen for this
I
session
have been,
amongst the
I've
board.
allowed it, I've tried to allow it in an orderly
We
way
cannot
rather
have-
than
we
revisit.
can't have discussions like this
Now you're just
outside of
using-
this
now you're
meeting.
just wasting time.
So,
So what is your
Dina, go
question?
ahead.
No, that's not for you to decide. What was your remaining question?
Regarding, so this is, what's been presented to us is all conceptual. None of it is concrete as far as in its design. How much percent change is typical, and any of you can answer this, that you see from going from conceptual to actual design?
And I'll speak to that first, and then I'll pass it off to David. But what we see is that at an early stage conceptual design, like what we would have seen in the proposal, there's a pretty significant shift sometimes, maybe 30 to 40% of the system might change. And what we would see at this point, it would be much lower because the contractor has been out here 3, 4, 5, 6 times and is very well aware of the construction conditions. And so I would anticipate less than 10%, less than 5%, maybe even change, maybe 0 change at this point.
I agree. We've had our engineer here 2 or 3 times. So he's been on the roof, he's looked at the gear. What could happen, because we're only offsetting 80%, 80 some odd percent, is by the time we actually get modules for this, the modules may be a little more efficient. For example, we originally proposed a year ago 300-watt solar panels. They're now 325 in the same form factor. So we could get a little more efficiency and a little larger system and more savings for the district. That would be your choice at the time.
So that 5 to 10% would,
0 to 5.
oh, sorry, from what was Jonathan was saying, would you guys be comfortable having that written into the contract? And if anything overruns that, would any of you be able to be responsible for any additional cost?
There would not be additional costs. Let's just make this clear. This is a service contract. Your obligation is to buy kilowatt hours from the provider. So there will be no additional cost to you in any way, shape, or form if the system changes in size.
So then, would you be comfortable with including that 5% in the contract then?
There are some unknown conditions. Now, we have not had a structural engineering review. We've looked at the plans that we've been given, but we've not taken a deep dive. So I actually don't think that that would necessarily be appropriate at this time.
There are already provisions in the power purchase agreement for changes of heart between the initial design and the final readiness and notice to proceed, and you all get to say notice to proceed to us based on everything that's known in the final design, permissions and so forth are in.
And there's a termination too.
Yeah, and you can terminate.
So are there any other contingencies that would allow us to rescind the agreement then?
There are, in that contract, there are a number of termination clauses.
Okay.
But a change in the cost of 4 or 5%, that is the risk of the contractor, not the district, is that correct?
Once we have commenced construction, it is absolutely our risk.
So thank you very much for that information, and I think having those answers does help me feel more comfortable about this implementation. But again, however, given our transition, I'm concerned that there's more risk than reward at this time for me personally, but thank you very much.
So, over the 20-year period, there's a schedule in here that shows how much we're paying for energy, which is somewhat similar to what we're paying today at a lower escalation rate, and then it drops significantly at year 16. And what I have learned is that should we make energy efficiencies to the facility that brings us under the allocation which we're obligated to pay over the 20-year period, we sell back to PG&E at a rate of 3 to 4 cents, whereas we're starting at 19 cents a kilowatt hour and going up to 27 cents. So there's a significant disincentive for us to do energy efficiencies that are going to result, because we're going to end up paying more for energy if we have to sell back to PG&E. And I just wanted to point that out. And also with the warranties, another thing is that this contract is so complicated that I would definitely almost insist upon a some sort of overarching either warranty or agreement that SEI.Soled, who the contract is with, be responsible to fix everything in a timely manner regardless. I mean, I almost don't even want to see the warranties, because I think that it confuses it, because in my experience working on projects, everybody's fighting with everybody else and pointing fingers on whose responsibility it is, and meanwhile, nothing's getting done. And it does say that there's a lot of opt-outs and everything. There's a lot of opt-outs and there's a lot of penalties to us to opt out, but there's no penalties for them opting out. And that's a huge issue that I have with this contract, the way that it's written. And it's something that, should this get approved, we definitely need to address that. Yeah.
And if you like, the issue about the oversizing the system is it's a very good point. You certainly wouldn't want to produce more energy than the facility could use. What's been proposed offsets I know it's impossible to read, but it's about 68.2% of the energy usage here. So you're pretty far off of that 100%. This offsets with that 68% of energy usage, it's about 85% of the energy bill. So there's still a remaining $6,000 PG&E bill that's here that you can, quote unquote, is to play with, so that if you were to make energy efficiency improvements, if the AC units were not going to use as much energy as has been projected, then there is that built-in protection. Instead of $42,000 bill with a $6,000 remaining, you'd have a $36,000 bill with zero remaining.
So in the questions, it says it's 80% of the pool, I believe, and 86% of the community center, which would factor into what we're paying. So is it 60 or is it 80?
It's, right, it's the difference between the bill and the energy usage in kilowatt hours. So it's about 70%, well, 68% of the energy, kWh, and it's about 85% of the energy bill.
Okay, so, I mean, if that's the case, then the amount that we're paying in residual energy cost, if it's 40, 35, or 40%, is what you're saying? Is that, am I understanding you correctly?
It's about 15%, yeah. 6,000 of your 42,000 is remaining.
Okay, but, yeah, so I need to understand that better, because
We're still gonna pay PG&E $6,000 a year.
I would probably pay them more than $6,000 a year, and that's not even including the gas price.
Correct, this is only electricity. But both are only electricity. The 42,000 is only electricity, the 6,000 is only electricity.
And our energy bills
Yeah, I'd like to
include.
move on. I think we're not moving very far here.
Open discussion.
Bill, can I respond at some point?
I might in the process. So I'm gonna make my comments. I'm actually gonna call for the vote afterward. I want to urge my fellow directors to vote for this. I think the support is obvious. I'd ask the students here rhetorically that if from their math classes, and I don't think we have to get too advanced, if I were to spend money next month for sure on electricity versus not spending money next month, which would leave me with more money. We have additional savings. This is only addressing 80% of our needs, basically because we're limited by the amount of square footage we have of roof space and additional space. So even if we were to provide additional efficiency measures, which we should be doing both, converting our energy to greener energy as well as saving anything we can, we still have room to get better that has nothing to do with this proposal, and increased efficiency will still just be more, better, gooder. I believe, I actually believe the numbers. Thank you, Jonathan. I believe in the independence of the study. But what I believe more than that is I believe the electricity bill that we get every month. I have no doubt, I don't need a time machine to know that we have been spending money on electricity and that we will continue to spend money on electricity, and that PG&E is not going to give us a Christmas present of 20 years of reduced or free energy. So I think just on that alone, from a financial aspect, I'd say that not spending money on power is better. And even if I question some of the predictions of this proposal and said, well, let's say we didn't save at no cost to us now if we didn't spend $500,000 of use. If we, instead of spending $1 million in electricity over the next 20 years, we only spend 500, we only save 500,000. If it was half off and we only saved 250,000, or if we only saved 100,000, I would take the 100,000 and I would pollute the environment and the earth less. I would take this if it had no savings in money, but just was the right thing to do. And I think that goes with the business. I think in terms of questioning these things, let me just address those comments about questions and questions and questions. And you can drill down into any proposal to the point of total paralysis and not being able to do anything. We are a small district. We have limited resources. The whole advantage of doing this proposal has been that we have been able to benefit from a whole bunch of different organizations and their time, and collectively it's been a win in terms of the information we have. We do not have the time to go and have competitive bidding. We don't have the time to analyze RFPs. We have a small staff that are doing a job every day that we are asking and have been asking them to concentrate on the day-to-day tasks, not on other speculative things. And so if we miss out on saving an additional $100,000, $200,000, it's the advantage that we've gained is that we were able to do it at all, but because of our staff. And I'd say that is true for our transition to a new director. The last thing we want to do is to have a new person come in with all of the catch-up that they're going to have to do, understanding the district, new visions, finding new ways to try to save money, and say to them, oh, and by the way, we just passed on this deal that was only saved us somewhere between $250,000 and $500,000. Can you go out and see if you can find us a deal that saves us $600,000 or $700,000? And meanwhile, that person, that new district manager, is going to have so many other things to do, and we're not hiring them. We're not going out to hire a solar expert as the district manager. I would like to take advantage of the bird in hand rather than the two speculative ones that are in the bush, and just move forward with this, pass it off as a project that will be taken care of just like any other project would be taken care of in terms of a capital project. I think that the 20-year thing, it's been addressed in terms of the commitment to 20 years. It's been addressed in the fact that we every day decide to purchase and engage in equipment and the use of stuff which is either disposable, paper that we use or that we recycle, whatever. But we use things that then become obsolete. We buy computers that become obsolete. We don't say we're not going to do anything until next year or maybe 10 years from now. We're about to buy a $500,000 fire engine, which in 20 years will be an obsolete fire engine. That doesn't mean that we wait 20 years to buy the next one because we're afraid to spend the money now on a depreciating asset. And in the meantime, that fire engine, when we spend that $500,000 on it, at the end of the day, is not going to make us any money. This is something that we can do without spending the money that actually will either provide savings that we have or maybe even make us some money if at some point we decide to actually purchase it and we have some cash lying around. I think that I feel better about the 20 years from a number of reasons. One, I've already been in office for 9 years, and it's flown by so quickly that it's, I wish we would have done this 9 years ago. We'd be halfway into this. Secondly, when I look at the options for purchasing that were in the most recent charts, I see that, should we have cash in 7 years, we could put that out there, start to see the savings. But by the way, when in that kind of a deal, you have to wait an additional 7 years, according to this chart, before you start making that money again. So what's the advantage? The cash that we have to use for our operations, or potentially for our savings, or to gain a little bit more 10 or 20 years from now. So the 20 years really is not a concern to me because it's not like we're waiting to start saving money. I do think obviously we have a majority support in this community for this type of thing, for solar. I'd say in terms of questions about whether this is the right proposal or not, is that you could, as I said, spend endless resources on searching for that magic diamond in the rough solar proposal that might save you something after you've spent loads of staff time, that they already have something better to do, as well as resources. And the clock is ticking. It's just another month or years, or multiple years of wasted emissions, of lost savings. So every month that we wait, it doesn't matter what the gain is in terms of a better proposal. It's a fiction. We have this proposal to take advantage of, and I don't want to see that opportunity pass. I think the questions have been answered very sufficiently, and at a certain point, if you don't believe the data, if you look at our history of kilowatt expense usage, and you just say, well, I just don't believe that in the last, since the 90s that we have increased an escalation of 5.48%. It just doesn't seem, well, I'm sorry, I do. I believe the data that's in the past, and I believe that whether you want to be optimistic and go for 4%, assuming that that's what your savings are going to be based on, or whether you're going to estimate the 2%, doesn't really matter to me. I mean, I think, again, it falls back to savings, less money spent outright. And yeah, I think that has addressed most of, I just do not want to continue to see the district, when they have an opportunity, be fearful and not take advantage of something which benefits us and is frankly short-sighted to pass up, and to be so focused on some particular detail that doesn't sit with someone that could be addressed, and maybe it should be addressed, that we lose the whole thing. So I'd like to actually call for the vote and move on to the rest of the agenda, and we have a full agenda, and I hope you all stay for the next 5 hours. But after we have this vote, I will say that we do have to continue on. I don't really want to take a break. I imagine that most of you will not stay, but so what I'll ask is that you quietly leave. If you want to have discussions, please wait until you're outside, because when everybody congregates in the hall, it's still loud in here, and we're trying to continue to conduct business.
If I could make just...
yeah, I'm sorry, you didn't get a chance to make your
couple of points. I was gratified to see Joe Runco here. Joe Runco is the only person in here who is on the board I know involved with the district when I was hired here in 1998. And I came in right in the middle of the pool construction contract with the filter building, the new deck, refurbishing, rehabilitation of the pool, replastering, new tide pool, all of that. It wasn't really a problem. I don't think it's going to be an insurmountable challenge for whomever you hire. I looked at the PG&E numbers too, given our costs. Our costs for this over 12 years have averaged increased about 1.3% per year, and at the pool about 3.8% per year. But that's just costs, and costs because our usage goes up and down over time, as the rate study shows. It's hard to say that that's going to be a steady state, but I do credit the consultant's estimates. Also, I think the question was raised about wanting to see the city's reference checks and stuff like that, and actually the city of Centerville has made the whole RFP and all of that, all of the staff reports, everything that went to city council. They did all that for you. We don't have to have that under our control, and it's all public and available.
I'm going to call for the question without hopefully biasing, and I'm going to hope that we send the students home to have lovely dreams of solar energy and not nightmares of carbon emissions. So all in favor, actually I think I'm going to do a roll call vote so on this. I'll start at the end and come down the line. Justin, this is all in favor of the proposal, or you could just say your vote, yay or nay.
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 Aye.
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 Thank you, and thank you for your patience throughout this and your attendance. And as I said, if you could please help us, I would love to continue, not take a break. We all want to keep going. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You're not coming back anymore.